Hi, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, my name is Phoebe. Today I'm going to be talking with you about cross stitch and everything specifically that I've been stitching on in the last 2 weeks. I have a new update episode here on my channel, Moonshine Stitchery, my last name is Moon, every 2 weeks where I talk about what I've been stitching on and what I'm excited about, my plans, and I do a little bit of book chat at the end of the video. Last episode, because of some technological difficulties, I didn't have any book chat, so I actually have a whole month of booky talk to share with you today. So if you're interested in that, that will be at the end of the video. So I'm really excited to be here today. I have lots of fun stitching. I don't have any finishes today, but I did even pull out my chatelaine in the last couple weeks, and I had so much fun stitching on that. So the first little bit of whips is going to be the tail of Maynia, because that went through May 24th for me, and then we'll be moving into other whips that I was working on and starting June. So very, very exciting. Welcome to June. I actually have a couple of really fun weeks coming up. Next week, well actually in 2 days, my mother will be flying in. We have a wedding on her side of the family that we're going to be going to out here, so she gets to visit with her sisters and all of her family and everything. She's gonna be staying with me for 4 days, and then I'm headed to Heidi's house from Whips and Kits. You know Heidi. If you don't watch her channel, you should be. And she lives in Wisconsin and near Madison, and she lives very near to Country Sampler and Linds of Madison, and so we're gonna just have like a little stitchy retreat, just the two of us. We've been planning this for years, so I'm really excited. We're gonna go, and I've never been to Wisconsin. Have I driven through there? Like, I think a little tiny bit, but never been, so she's going to show me all around. We're gonna go to all the stitchy stores and just enjoy stitching. I'm gonna go and like lay in her stash and just probably cry tears of beauty, of joy and beauty at her stash. So very, very excited. So that's what's going to be the next 2 weeks for me. But I do plan on stitching a lot during that time because that's what I like to do. So let's go ahead and talk about whips. I do have a few new to me Flosstube channels to talk about, but let's get into whips and then we'll talk about those in a minute. So you're very familiar at this point, I think, with my 2 strands a day project for now. So as you can see, this Halloween Town sign is almost done. I was almost able to get that done. So I stitch on this 2 strands of floss a day, every day. This is my 2 strands a day till it's finished. So there's just one more sign at the bottom of Halloween Town. You've already seen the image because I put it up on the screen. Oh, it says dead end. Well, isn't that perfect to finish with dead end? And that is going to be so much black stitching. So this time it was so much of this green color, and I just haven't really been able to get it all knocked out in 2 weeks, but I'm very close. So I'm loving this piece. This is very stitch heavy. There's a lot of fill-in, which is actually really nice. So you can just outline the signpost, then write the word in there, and then or stitch it and then fill it in. So that's really nice. And then with the Halloween Town, I've been fussy stitching, like messing with the floss a little bit to give it, like to give that wood the coloration that I wanted to. So because it is a highly variegated light to dark green floss. That floss is Forest Glade. I just had to look it up. And I'm using all the called for flosses with this. I'm stitching it on the Primitive Hare. Sorry, this is Halloween This Way from Primitive Hare. And I'm stitching it on the Big Spell linen 30 count that is, I think, made for this project. And so I'm using 2 strands of flosses, just eating up floss, but I'm almost done. So I'm very, very excited to have this for Halloween this year. I had to pause to go blow my nose. I know I say this every single year, but allergies just feel worse this year than ever. Okay, I'm getting these in order. I don't know why I don't have these on a ring, but here are my 3 silks that I'm using for my next stitch. So on the 19th on my Maynia list, I have Jan Hicks Vintage Christmas Alphabet, I think is what it's called. So I've noticed that Sarah's Stitchy Spot, Sarah is stitching these kind of similar, we're kind of going along at a similar pace, but I think she's finished her first two already, like fully finished them. So I finished those, and then I started this one on this 19th. And so that one's gonna say Candle, I think. And it only calls for 3 colors of floss, and I didn't have the ones that they called for, so I just pulled from stash. So I have Gloriana Autumn Gold. This was something that was called for in my Bee Stitches from Jeanette Douglas. And then I have Tulip from Belle Soie. I might have just picked that up for a red sampler. And then MPI 358 is my green. So that's what I'm using for my Christmassy shades. This is a piece of 40 count that I over dyed. It's just a soft, dirty pink. And here's where I'm at across them. And I really, really love it. So it's 40 counts, so I'm stitching 1 over 2. And that's what I was able to get done on one day. Because if you aren't familiar with Maynia, you just stitch on one project each day for the at least the way that the traditional way, I guess, that I started it years ago when I first learned about Flosstube. And so you're kind of like jumping project to project. So this was my day 19. So day 20, I had a empty spot because I finished one of my Maynia projects from last year. So I put in my Leona sewing box from Blackbird Designs. This is a project that I am unofficially stitching with Jan from Hoop It Up with Jan. She's actually already finished hers. The reason why this is so cute is because Jan's, is it your grandma Jan? Her last name is already on the pattern, and my grandmother's first name, Leona, is already on the pattern. So she needed to change the first name, I'm changing the last name. I'm stitching this with Silken Colors in the burgundy. So it has some really nice deep to medium kind of crimson colors. And this is how it's looking. So I'm choosing to do the pattern monochromatically. I showed it to you and it has a full you know, range of colors there, but I'm using this as a red heritage sampler. And so I finished the one for my maternal grandmother, and this is my father's grandmother's memorial piece. Her name is Leona. So this is a 40 count, so it'll be nice and small. And if you want to see, please go look at Jan's Instagram and on her Flosstube. It's Hoop It Up with Jan, I believe, on Instagram, and she has hers finished, and it is so beautiful. And after she posted that, I was like, yep, that's going in my day 20. So this is how far I am. I think I started this on one of my 12 by 12 starts for New Year's Eve, and so really didn't have a lot. So probably most of what you see there is from the 20th, I feel like. Still wasn't a ton, but that's what I got done. So I'm doing 1 strand over 2 on this 40 count. Day 21, I also had an empty spot, so I was able to put in a previous whip. I did that for every day this year of Maynia that I had an empty spot. I put in previous whips, all except the first day and the last day. So I will have one new start to share with you at the very end of Maynia. So on day 21, I decided to put in Hannah Campbell. This is a Hands Across the Sea, and it is insanely gorgeous. So Heidi from Whips and Kits started this, and I think, Heidi, did you put this on a light pinky fabric like I did? I feel like I copied you. Anyway, she was showing her progress, and I was just like, that has got to be one of the coolest stitches I've ever seen. I mean, there's just so much fun stuff going on, and this is just a tiny, tiny part of it. So, and I got into the bird this time. So I was like, yes. So I feel like, again, this was a 12 by 12 start for me. And so I put it in day 21 so I could get more progress on it. Plus I just love stitching on it. So I always want an excuse to pull this out. So I fully converted the chart myself because I didn't have any of the MPIs. And then, so I just decided to do all fancy floss from stash. So it's all gonna look different than it should. But I went off of the DMC conversion to get it as close to the DMC as I could. So I am just loving it. It is really, really fun. Like, I I can't express how fun this project is. So highly recommend if you have this in your stash, get it out and start it. Yeah, I mean, I think this time I think I was finishing up some of the blue in here. I finished up this guy and then did these guys right here. So that's what I did on the 21st, and this is a 40 count that I over dyed. Just another dirty pink, but this one's darker. And it's 40 count, so I'm doing 1/2, and that's Hannah Campbell. Okay, so my day 22 is a continuation from last year, and this is Hands-On Design, A Year of Celebration Season 2, I believe. So, let me get that on there. I'm using hot cocoa from Be Stitch Me as my base, and I'm gonna stitch it all together like a little calendar like this. So I think it was either February, March, and April, or maybe just March and April, I stitched, yeah, it was just March and April. I stitched that block in the month. And so I was hoping that I could get this all done in one day, but it just wasn't possible. It's okay. So this is gonna be May, and it's really sweet already. So if this looks a little different to you, I am using the Fat Quarter Shop conversion of All Classic Colorworks. She has some of the same colors, but she changed a few. So it will look a little bit different than the cover image, but I'm really enjoying it. And it's a 40 count, Be Stitch Me Hot Cocoa, so I'm doing 1/2, and I really, really like it. I like calendars of stuff. So it's gonna be this cute little petite calendar. Let's see, I'm nearing halfway done. You know, not really, but it'll be twice as long as that. So sweet. So that was day 22. Day 23 was also open for a new spot. So I decided to pull in Long Dog Sampler's Cardinal points. And let me get it facing the correct way. So here it is. All right, so I'm using all of the called for flosses because it was like a Gentle Arts collab, I feel like is what I remember hearing originally. So it has a whole rainbow of Gentle Arts. So when I finally finish this project, I will be adding a lot of fun colors back into my stash. So this is stitched on a pale gray with like a tiny bit of chocolatey undertones, but this is something that I dyed. And so yeah, let's see, what did I do? I pulled these bright greens out more, and then this is all new. This is new. So basically everything from where the green is going is all new. So this part. And this is a 40 count, so it is 1/2. And I just think it's really, really fun. If you love a rainbow of colors, you will really enjoy stitching on this. You do change your floss a lot. Like this is like 12 different colors just in that motif alone. So, you know, that is one thing. If you don't like changing your floss, then you probably won't like this. But I think it is pretty darn fun, and some of the flosses are very highly variegated. So like this yellow up here is the same as this green down there. It's just a yellow-green variegation. And so, yeah, I think it is super fun, and that is what I got done on the 23rd. So my one new start in the last 2 weeks and my final day of Maynia is this lovely lady. Do you recognize it? This is another Hannah. So I have 3 Hannahs going right now. I have Hannah Sanderson, I have Hannah Campbell, and Hannah Elliot. This is Needlework Press, I believe. And this, so I started on the 24th. This is not just one day of work. I'm not actually that fast of a stitcher, so I think I stitched on this the 24th and the 25th. Because it's just so beautiful and it was so fun. So this, again, I maybe had like 1 or 2 of the flosses, so all of these are pulled from stash. And it's a mix of silk and cotton flosses because I just like doing that. So here's what I got done, and it's so fun. It's so fun. So I think that I saw that a lot of people are starting this recently. Kim, I think you have this on your roster to start, or maybe you already started it. And I just love it. Look at that cute bird. So anyway, this is 40 count. Again, on a piece of linen that I over-dyed. This is giving us kind of a eggshell to beige. And this, look at my margin. Don't worry, I won't try to force somebody else to try to frame this for me. Maybe I'll just make a wall hanging. So it is very close to being able to fit on a fat quarter on 40 count, but it doesn't quite fit. So it's gonna take up this whole thing. And actually, inspired by you, Kim, I'm just gonna cut out that whole like rectangle, or what is it, a trapezoid, where it says stitched by Hannah Elliot kind of thing. I'm just gonna omit that because otherwise it was gonna be too long. So if I take that out, I have plenty of margin top and bottom. And then it just have a teeny tiny margin on the left and right. It'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. So that is my day 24 of Maynia 2024 and my one start of the last 2 weeks. And that finishes up Maynia for me for a whole year. So if you're new to my channel, I have 2 ways of randomly drawing projects. So I have certain things I stitch on specific days. And then whenever I don't just like automatically know what I want to stitch on that day, I will draw randomly from my Maynia list. So this is my new 2024 Maynia list. There's nothing crossed off yet. Actually, number 7 needs to get crossed off because I finished that on May 7th. Anyway, just kidding. I do have something to cross off. Anyway, so I draw a project from here. So Maynia is on here, but then I also have a wheel. And you'll see both of these at the end of the video that has all of my whips in it. And so then Maynia projects have 2 times the opportunity to get pulled. So yeah. All right, let's talk about some Flosstube channels that I haven't really done a mention in a minute, but I have, as well as I've been reading a lot, but I have been catching up on some Flosstube. And the YouTube algorithm has been suggesting me some great things to watch. So most recently, aside from all of my regular bays that love to keep me company while I'm stitching, I watched Jackie's first video, Comfort Stitching. She has a really calm, beautiful way of speaking. You can just tell this woman has a lot of self-confidence, and I find that really comforting. Her channel's called Comfort Stitching. She's also an artist and like a new to Flosstube and discovering all the stuff that we have all discovered when we found this community, right? Anyway, she's really great, so I highly recommend that you go check her out. Another very well-spoken new Flosstuber, like I wonder if her job is something where she uses her voice to communicate for a living already. She's very enjoyable to watch. Her channel is called Apple Harvest Stitching, and I think she started with a whip parade. And she has a lot of full coverage, but she also has a lot of other things too. So if you're watching the beginning of the video and full coverage is not your jam, just keep on going. Her full coverages are all stunning, by the way. I watched all of them, even though I only have, well, I have 2 full coverage on the go. But I don't get them out very often because it's just not like what I'm driven to stitch mainly. But then I noticed that about halfway through her whip parade, she stitches on a lot of other things that I'm definitely interested in. So go check her out. She is great. And all of these channels will be in the description bar below. Another stitcher that I believe I remember Kim mentioning on her channel, but it just showed up in my recommended on YouTube, is the Periwinkle stitcher. I believe her name is Sean. And she was so lovely to listen to. She, I believe, lives in the UK, and she has so many beautiful projects, and definitely go check her out. She was a delight. So I think that's it for now. So on the 25th, I wanted to stitch on something Christmassy, but I was continuing to stitch on Hannah Elliot. So on the 26th, I pulled out my second day of Christmas from Hello from Liz Matthews. And I got a good bit done. So previously, all I had done was the border. I hadn't started inside here at all. So I put in the first bird and everything that you see inside that border. So I'm going to be stitching all of these together. And yeah, this is how it's looking so far. So this is a piece of 40 count that I overdyed, and it's going to be 3 wide and 4 down. So really, really sweet. I know Cam the Stitcher is working on these, and she is just flying through them. She's buddy stitching them with somebody else, and she's doing the trees, I believe, and she is able to stitch these up way faster than I am. I don't know why when I get going on here, I get kind of distracted easily, and I'm not like compelled to keep moving through these stitches. So this one was more so even than this one. I don't know why. So, but we'll see. So this is likely to come out on the 25th of each month, but I have other Christmas projects as well. Then on the 27th, I got out my chatelaine. So here's my project bag for my chatelaine. I should figure out a different solution because the silks, they could be handled more gently. But anyway, so I chose the Holland Mandala chatelaine. The colors are just everything to me. That's the one I chose. I'm also stitching it on 18 count Ada, which I know does complicate when you're trying to do the specialty stitches. However, I'm just a make it work kind of person, so that's what we're doing. I have most of the beads that I could find and the specialty flosses. Some of the bugle beads are proving hard to find. Here's all of the called for specialty silks. Sorry, that's not all of them. I have gathered up a number of them as I go, and there are a few more that I need to grab. Anyway, one of the main reasons I love this project so much is those flosses are just everything. So, but I always forget how much I love stitching on this piece. Okay, here's where I'm at. So, since it's a mandala, it's gonna repeat itself from this corner and go out from there 4 times. So I'm doing the middle, the bottom left. So actually when you look at the chart, this is the bottom left, and that's how it faces. But when you look at the cover image, this is like this way or something. It's facing a different way, but it doesn't really matter because, you know, what's nice about it is you can like flip it or whatever and change it, and then your viewing pleasure once it's all done, you know, in a million years, will be slightly different than how it was before. So that's fun. So I'm stitching this, like I said, it's on an 18 count, and I'm doing 2 over 1. So this is going to use a lot of floss. I stitched on this, I think, for 2 days. Let's see if you can tell what I did. I didn't do any beading this time. I finished this out, except for I'm missing a few of the flosses for that bottom of the tulip right there. And so then I brought this down a little bit more, did some more of the specialty stitches in there. I believe those are Rode and Rice stitches in there. And then, or these are Rode and these are Rice or something. Anyway, and then I filled this out quite a bit more, and then I filled this out quite a bit more. And I remember what I was reading when I was working on that. So I'm just loving it. You can't tell because this is gonna be just white silk. I haven't filled that in yet. But yeah, so that's where I've gotten to, and I really, really love it. It's just gonna be so stunning when it's all done. But honestly, I'm more of a process stitcher, and I just love pulling these silks through this piece of Ada and just loving the artistry that I feel when I stitch on this piece. So highly encourage if you haven't done a chatelaine. I have been stitching since I was about 12, but this was my first time when did I start this? I started this shortly after I found Flosstube, so May 2022. I just kind of jumped right in, and I encourage you to do the same. Of course, it is an investment because of all of the beautiful components called for, but I really, really love it. And fully intend on starting another one if I ever finish this. So there is my Holland Mandala Chatellaine. So I stitched on that till the 30th, and then on the 30th I pulled out the project that my daughter Joy picked out for me to stitch for her. Every 30th of the month I pull out Blackberry House by Plum Street Samplers. So here's where I am on that. I'm using all of the called for flosses. So new from last time is just this bird and leaf there. So not a massive amount. I am learning I love this cappuccino color by Classic Colorworks. It's just so pretty. It's a brown pink and it's really, really pretty. It's used a lot in this pattern. So yeah, that's about it. This is a 40 count dried petal from Fabric and Flare. So it's a printed fabric. So I'm right up to the middle of the fabric there. So I'm gonna need to open that up as I'm going. And I was gonna keep working on this vase, urn, what have you, but oh, it was tedious just stitching that color. And I was like, I wanna do a little bit more on this project and not just spend a whole another day of stitching for her, just filling in that urn. I just couldn't. My soul wanted to stitch on something else. So yes, that's why I moved up to the bird. I'll come back to that fill in later. The final thing that I stitched on in the last 2 weeks is Jack's Bash, again from Plum Street Sampler. And I was inspired to start this by Olivia from Pumpkin Hollow Quilts and Katie from So Tattered. And then when I saw Heidi from Whips and Kits, she was stitching on, what's it called, Heidi? The patriotic piece. And Hollis Hands Creates is starting a new one she does every year. One of the patriotic pieces. She does it from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Anyway, so everybody was stitching on the Plum Streets that are similar in style to this. But this is the Halloween one. It says Happy Halloween right at the top. It's called Jack's Bash. So I pulled out mine because that felt like the most similar thing I had to that, and I didn't want to start a new project. But Heidi's progress on hers really makes me want to start that. So this is a piece of 40 count that I over dyed. I keep track of my recipes and I have little numbers in the corner so that I can dye the same thing if I want to. I really love this. This is probably the most brown piece that I've dyed. So love, 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 love this. And I have my own conversion because I didn't have most of the flosses. I feel like, is there anything even the same? I don't even think there's anything the same in here from the called for. So there's a mix again of silks and other things, and some of them are very highly variegated. And I did that on purpose to give us some really nice autumn colors in this Jack's Bash. This one is really cool. It's Silken Colors Autumn Night, and then we have Gloriana Autumn Gold. And there's a few others in there that are really cool, but it makes for highly variegated flowers is what's happening in the piece. So this time I finished up these 3 lines of alphabet. That's India Ink Gloriana. And I did the sawtooth. There's one there and one there. And then I filled in this flower, brought this bordering down more, and then put in this tree because I'm going to start working on the inside of there. So on the 31st of the month, I try to stitch on something Halloween-y. So I pulled this one out and I just love it. I don't want to put it away. Maybe I'll stitch on it again today. So I really, really like this piece. It does have a lot of over one, like a lot. So I don't know, maybe I'm going to rechart that and put something else in there so it's not over one, because this is over one and this was over one, and I had to fudge that. That's not even how it's supposed to look. It's not supposed to come up that high, but I couldn't like count my tiny little stitches. I mean, it looks okay. You can't tell it's what's not written, but the silk slips through on over 1 on 40 count. So I don't end up being able to get like, and I've been doing it in hand. I stitch in hand with everything. So anyway, so this is my Jack's Bash and I super love it. And I hope that you are going to see this again soon because I just want to stitch it. So I don't have any haul. I've been purposely not shopping because I have been planning this trip to go visit Heidi and I want to shop while I'm there. So we're going to talk about plans. So basically, like I said, I have certain things that I stitch on specific days of the month. For example, on June 4th, I'm going to stitch on something patriotic. So I'm going to be stitching on my Artful Offerings Americana sailboat. That is my 4th of the month stitching. Also on that day, I have a dentist appointment. And that's the day I'm picking my mom up from the airport. My daughter is leaving for girls camp tomorrow. That's really exciting. And I have on my calendar that I'm starting a Stacey Nash project with Liz from Lizzie the Stitcher. I love her. If you don't watch her, you definitely should. But she is starting, she said, I think she said start anytime in June, a Stacey Nash project. So I haven't decided which one. But I'm gonna work on picking that out today because I'm gonna start that tomorrow with her. So definitely go watch her if you haven't. There's a lot of channels for you to check out in the description bar. So on the 7th, I'm gonna be stitching on my birthday stitch, which I skipped in May because of Maynia. So here's my birthday stitch. It's Vintage Stitches from Jeanette Douglas. That puts me behind to be able to have it finished by August. I mean, I've been working on that one for a whole year. Bee Stitches, which is actually right over there. I just grabbed it really quick. This was my stitch that I started August 2022. That was hard to think of. And it just has some purple velvet on the back. My favorite color is purple. Anyway, so then I picked Vintage Stitches for this year and I was hoping to have this done by my birthday. So I think I'll just have to stitch on this some extra days in June and July. Not this. On Vintage Stitches to make sure that it's all the way done. So that's definitely a plan. Then on the 8th, I'm leaving for Heidi's house, but I will take my anniversary stitch, which is Pretty Little London by Satsuma Street, and I will stitch on that on the 10th if we're not too busy gallivanting around all the shops. Oh, I have an eye appointment I need to cancel, so I won't be here for that. Okay, anyway, on the 13th, I'll stitch on something Halloween-y. Depends on what I take with me to Heidi's house. And that brings us, that's all of the things that I'm planning on starting or stitching on in the next 2 weeks. I do have another planned start for, let me see what day it is because I want to mention it to you in case you want to do it. On the 24th, Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot and Judy from Stitching Bunny. Their birthdays are almost the same day, and they are starting Florence Mary Dickinson from Hands Across the Sea on that day to celebrate their birthday. So if you want to stitch something with those two wonderful, lovely ladies, get that project out and kit it up and ready to go. So that's going to be on the 24th of June. Okay, so those are all of my projected things that I already know I'm going to do. So on the other days when I'm trying to think of something I want to stitch and I don't really know what I want to do, I use a random generator to help me decide. So the first one I'm going to pick is from my Maynia list. So I put a minimum of 1 and a max of 24. And then I got number 14. So that means it is going to be Halloween Quaker. So that you will definitely see before, like on my next video, I will have stitched on that at some point. On one of the days when I'm like, oh, I don't know what I want to stitch today, I'll get out Halloween Quaker. Maybe that's what I'll take to Heidi's house and stitch on the 13th. Okay, so then my other way that I generate a project for myself when I don't know what I want to stitch is this wheel. This is called Tiny Decisions. It's an app, and I have all my whips loaded in here, and so I just spin the wheel and see what comes up. And I have it set to not re-spin something, like it's supposed to black the little diagonal out. So this says Friendship Garden, which I've actually already finished and gifted to my friend Leilani. So we're gonna spin again. Cold Sea Sampler from Modern Folk Embroidery. Okay, that'll be really fun. That's the one that I'm stitching on that cobalt blue Be Stitch Me fabric, and I'm using mascara from Weeks. So you will definitely see that some progress on that in my next video. So that's it for stitching. I'm going to talk about books now. If you are totally disinterested in books, then I will see you in the next one. If you maybe want some recommendations based upon what I've been listening to, I listen on Audible while I'm working or stitching or cleaning or whatever I'm doing. I almost always have an Audible audiobook in. So I have read a lot of things since the last time I had an update. Okay, so I apologize off the bat if I re-mentioned something I mentioned a whole month ago. I don't think that that's gonna happen, but I filmed this portion for the last video and that's some of the footage that got corrupted, so it's gonna feel like I'm saying it again to myself. Okay, so the most recent thing that I talked about was The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I think that was the most recent thing. So then after that, in my audiobook history, that's how I'm seeing what I'm reading. I read Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. I loved this book. I didn't think that I was gonna love it so much, like for the first 3 or 4 hours, because it's a time traveling book. This woman is jumping back in time, and she's also like trying to solve a murder at the same time, and it's really important to her personally to figure out like how to stop this from happening. So you've got those elements, sci-fi plus suspense, but it's also very sentimental and romantic within her family unit. Sentimental with not just like her romantic relationship and everything, but it's really beautiful. So I really loved it. If that sounds like a fun time to you, so I'm going to be putting them up on the screen so you can make note of them, screenshot if that sounds good to you. So really like that. I think that was my first 5-star read of the year, besides like rereads of Stormlight Archive and stuff like that. Okay, after that I read book 2 in the Legendborn series. It's called Bloodmarked. The 3rd book is not out yet. This is by Tracy Dion. I also really enjoyed this. Book 2 was maybe not quite as good as book 1, but it was still really good. It deals with the King Arthur. It's not really retelling, but the legend of King Arthur goes through this book and through the magic system, and it's really fun. So definitely check that out if you like fantasy and you like a little bit less traditional main character voice that you're getting to listen to, more minorities in this book. And if the King Arthur thing sounds at all interesting to you, check it out. Okay, so then I finished up, I read through I think book 8 in the Will Trent series. Still just continuing to love that series. Will Trent is my jam. He's a perfectly flawed individual, but he's very humble, and it's just the progression, you know, of his character as you go throughout these books. But he works for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, so it's kind of like watching Criminal Minds episodes, but it's in a book. It's in books, so I really like it. Recommend. Those are by Karen Slaughter. Then I started The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Actually, I started this like a year ago maybe, and then I put it down and picked it back up recently and loved it. So it does have some quite gruesome imagery in the different retellings of the war that's been going on for centuries. There's like a new war, but there's references to the previous war, and but basically it's another fantasy book and a different magic system. This time shamanism, but the main character doesn't even really know about that when she starts to go to this war college, and it's an underdog story for sure. But also one of the really interesting things about this book is the main character is not necessarily good. Like, you can't really tell how she's going to end up in the end, but she really just wants power. So I find that to be really interesting, because when you have your main character is always just like the best person in the story, always has the best intentions, that can get, I mean, that's not really realistic. We have good and bad intentions in all of us. I mean, I try to be good, but you know, we all have our human nature. But this girl, she really, really wants power. She wants vengeance, she wants power. So anyway, I really liked it. I thought it was great writing, super enjoyable and different. So that's The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Then I read A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I have just like this long list on my phone of all these books that I hear people talk about, and I put them down, and then I kind of earmark them that I want to read this with my brother. I want to read this with my reading buddy over here. So this one I read with my brother, and it's a wizard school kind of, but not like Harry Potter, because the kids are all college age and they live in this scholomance, which the school like decides for the students what they're going to be learning, gives them their books and assignments, and the school is like really dangerous. Everyone dies by like the monsters that live in the school. So I found that really interesting and different. There's no like evil teachers. There's no Voldemort that's out to get anybody. There's just, they call them mals, like malevolent creatures in the world. But they're not personas that you're getting to know or anything. So you don't have like arch enemies, or like I said, there's no Voldemort, at least at this point in the book. So I find it really interesting, and like to graduate, you just have to survive going and facing a bunch of these creatures. So I found it was interesting. Another book where the main character is not necessarily good. You're not sure or not. I mean, she's like slated to destroy the world. Like her magic is so great or something. So she's always struggling with like, am I a good person, or do I just want to like destroy everyone because it gets rid of these bad creatures, and who cares if everyone dies? So I found it to be really interesting. So if that sounds good to you, that is what you can look up and enjoy that as well. I really liked that one. Next, I read Into the Water from Paula Hawkins. I read this with my girlfriend Leilani, and this one is really interesting. Like, this has maybe 25 different perspectives. If that sounds like you're not going to enjoy that, then probably steer clear of this book, because it was a little bit jarring. It takes a while to figure out who you're listening to all the time. But basically it's about this town where there's a whole bunch of mysterious deaths that happen surrounding this body of water. And it's like, is this body of water mystical? Does it like call to people to come drown in the water? Does it have to do with magic, witches? Like, what's going on? But it's also a murder mystery. So there's like 2 deaths that have happened recently, and you're trying to figure out. So you're getting the perspective of a cop, and you're getting the perspective of a medium, and you're getting a perspective of just an aunt that's there to take care of her niece now that her sister died, and like I said, like 20 other perspectives besides that. So you're just kind of like pulling this information, I guess, like kind of like you would as if you were the police officer, but you're getting all of their first person points of view every time it's changed perspective. So you're getting all these different things, and you're trying to piece together and figure out what happened. So I did like the book. I'm really glad that I read it. If you don't like a whole bunch of different perspectives, then you won't like this book. So, but I did enjoy it. Then we read The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret, both by Frida McFadden. The Housemaid was highly recommended to me. And then we read the follow-up. The follow-up wasn't quite as good as the first one. But basically it's about a housemaid. She's just, well, I don't want to say too much about it, because I don't think you find out this one thing a little ways into it. But anyway, she's been down on her luck. And for reasons that you find out later, she can't be like too picky about what job she takes. So she gets herself into this housemaid kind of babysitting role in this family, and then things start getting a little crazy. And halfway through the book, it totally changes. You get like a floop, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. So I found it to be really interesting. After I got to that point, I was like, okay, I can see why a lot of people are talking about this book. Whereas up to there, it just sounded like, you know, kind of like a basic, a little bit of a suspense book. Like, what's going on? So anyway, that was really fun. The second one follows a very similar format, where you're just kind of going along and then it flips on you. So, like I said, I like the first one better than the second one. So probably like a 4-star and then a 3-star rating for me on that. So there's the first one and there's the second one. Then In between there, I started a book called The Body Reader by Anne Fraser. This is one that I'm just reading on my own. And it's about this woman who basically was kept in captivity by a captor, and she finally got away from him due to like this power outage. And so she gets back to her, it's been like 3 or 4 years, and everybody just assumed that she died. She gets back to her job at the police station. This happens like in the first chapter. And she wants her job back, even though she's, you know, suffering major trauma, but she wants her job back. So she starts to begin to work again as a police officer. And because she was kept in like absolute darkness for so long, I think it was the darkness, her other senses, like all of her senses are really heightened. So she can read people really well and kind of like see what's going on with them. And I'm not very far into the book. I'm only like 3 hours maybe into it. So I don't know where it's going to go, but it's interesting so far. And it was recommended to me, like it was in the sale at Audible and it was on sale. So I snagged it. So I'll have to let you know about that. And then I'm buddy reading with my friend. I know this is the last one. We're starting The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. Apparently this has quite mixed reviews. Some people really love this and some people are like, But again, this one came highly recommended to me again, so we will have to see. I know nothing about it, but that is what is next up on my list. So if you want to share with me what you're reading, what you're stitching, I would love to know. If you've read any of these things, I love to chat about books. So please comment down below if you want to share anything with me. I appreciate you being here for this little bit of a longer video today. I hope you've been having a lot of stitchy time. I hope you are enjoying good weather. And I hope you have a great next couple weeks with lots of stress-free time to just enjoy your craft. So that's going to be it for today. I appreciate you stopping by. Like and subscribe the video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you back in 2 weeks. Okay, take care. Bye.